It's more than a concert, it's an act of remembrance, and it's something that, not just an act of remembrance about the First World War in its whole, but an act of remembrance specifically for Romsey's Remand Station. That's the focus of the concert. So the first piece in the concert will be a new piece by Paul van Gulick, Horses, a Gift to Mankind.
In a peaceful place like Romsey, there was a remand depot which was enormous, and I was astonished by it, and I was well, touched by it. So I wanted to write something about the Romsey remand depot, especially because it is 100 years ago that the First World War started. I used a poem of Catherine Lee Bates, and she has made the poem from the perspective of the horse. What did we do wrong that we deserved this, this fate? There is a narrator involved, and he starts with a legend from the Bedouins that God created a horse by condensing wind and blow into it, and it became a horse.
He said to the south wind, I want to make a creature of you, condense, and the wind condensed.
There's a poem which starts with the line, only a dying horse, and it goes on to say, goodbye old friend, goodbye. And at that point I fill up, and I've heard it over and over again. Vaughan Williams actually served in the First World War, although he was in his 40s at the time. He served in the field ambulance and would have gone out onto the battlefield to collect the injured and sadly to deal with the wounded and the dead too. And it's absolutely clear that he saw some pretty horrific sights. It didn't find its way into his music until later on, and Donna Nobis Pacem isn't a requiem in remembrance for the First World War, it's a plea for peace in the turbulent years before the Second World War. The whole text all comes from Walt Whitman, few scriptural sources from the Bible. And this title, Donna Nobis Pacem, which of course comes from the Agnus Dei of the Mass, it's not a liturgical piece, but it's particularly apt. It means, give us peace. I have a particular affection for George Dyson, fellow Yorkshireman, grew up in Halifax, and fellow Winchesterite, Wintonian, who moved to Winchester in the 1920s to become Director of Music at Winchester College and made Winchester his home for over 40 years. He was eventually given the keys to the city. So this is a piece that is by a composer that's local to us. It happens to be 50 years since Dyson died, in 1964. And he was a very prominent local figure. And actually, it's a fantastic piece. Some wonderful text from Henry V by Shakespeare. And it's a really rousing, sort of fantastic, slightly Elgarian pomp and circumstance piece. And I think it's fitting, particularly as Dyson himself served in the First World War and almost died. Almost. He was primarily a teacher, and that's the thing I love about Dyson is you can feel in the music that he's not trying to make a statement, he's not trying to be intellectual, he's trying to share music. And when he was at Winchester College, it was the case that almost all the boys in the college would be expected to sing or play in the orchestra, which of course nowadays music is a specialism. Dyson was a believer that music was for everybody. And on top of all this wonderful music, we have all this wonderful poetry, not just the Walt Whitman set by Vaughan Williams, Shakespeare set by Dyson, but Paul has set an absolutely extraordinary collection of texts, some to music and some for narration. So we'll actually hear the spoken word, which somehow makes the whole thing more poignant. So it's not just a musical extravaganza, which it will be, but an extravaganza of fantastic spoken word. And again, it is a concert, it will be a concert, it's there to be enjoyed, but it also has this very serious side of remembering, and remembering Dyson, remembering the dead of all wars, and remembering particularly Romsey and the remount station.